Hello, friends. This is Christopher Davis-Shannon, and today we are checking in across the pond with the luthier extraordinaire, Liam Kirby. Liam, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Yes, I'm hot. It's hot here in England, but I'm all right.
Don't worry, it's hot here too. I don't know if you can see the sweat coming down my face or not in Philadelphia, but 80 degrees Celsius here, so that's too hot for me.
Yeah, it's too hot.
Would you mind playing a tune to cool us off? That's the good music. I need to, for full disclosure, before we start chatting, I have to say for everyone listening that the question I get every week of who made the ukulele that I play, the answer to that question is Leo. So if you are entranced by that uke that I play, he's the man to talk to. He really knows about them. But I'd love to talk about kind of what got you into building instruments, because you don't do just ukes. I mean, I know that's your main thing, but you also do tenor guitars and lap slides and some parlor guitars. But instruments that are, focused on that early American time period, really of early jazz, the teens and 20s. And so what drew you into the lutherie itself in the first place?
I kind of came to it backwards from being a musician first and then playing. So I didn't have any background in building stuff beyond a very poor grade at GCSE when I was 15 at woodwork. But I started working in music shops in my early 20s and then started just getting into handling instruments, and then I started doing repair work, and that kind of getting into the world of repair tools and such kind of drew me into reading books about, you had kind of come to instruments by how they work internally rather than how you build them, and like learning setups is very useful when you come to build instruments and actually need people to be able to play them. And then when I started working for Hobgoblin Music, which is like a British folk music specialist, I could get my hands on more and more kind of older vintage instruments would come in. And that was kind of where my kind of inspiration for an interest in old instruments comes from. Just picking up something when you're like surrounded by a shop full of modern instruments all day, and then somebody brings in this thing from the 1920s. It's kind of weird and it's broken a bit, but it just sings like a modern instrument just doesn't. So I kind of felt like I wanted to recreate that.
I fully understand. And one of the parts of recreating that is you mostly at least make your instruments in the way that they were made back then, in this world of automated everything and CNC routing, cutting every top on a uke and it being assembled by 15 different people in this massive factory. You're one man in a workshop with a saw and some files. And what led you to do, because I'm sure that must be a much more time consuming process than having any automation whatsoever, right?
I kind of think maybe it's once you get used to it, it's kind of quicker than people think, because like if you're doing something with a machine, you have to set up the jig to do the thing and set up the dust collection and all this stuff to then turn the machine on and do the thing that maybe then only it takes 5 seconds, but you've spent 15 minutes setting up whatever stuff around it, whereas I can just like draw a line and grab a saw and cut it. So I feel like maybe it's more efficient than it might be. Like in a one-person scenario, kind of works for me. I don't really understand. I'm not like a machines kind of. I'm not interested. I like processes, and I feel like you kind of remove yourself from what you're doing if you do it with a machine that does most thing for you. I much prefer to like be holding a chisel and know what I'm going for.
I fully agree on that. It does. You get, and it shows in the instruments. There's like, because there's, you know, anything that's handmade versus made with a machine, there are imperfections, there are oddities outside of, you know, what a machine would be absolutely perfect. And that's like part of the joy of those handmade instruments, is everything that's not down to the smallest millimeter or micrometer, like exactly as it is. And it shows just the love that goes into it, that you can only do doing it by hand. You know, every piece of wood is different. You can't treat it as if it's the same piece of wood all the time.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that comes a lot to it. A lot of these models that you're making are based of those early American ones. I know I've seen some stuff that's kind of inspired by the Regal factory and Harmony and stuff in Chicago in the 20s, which I have a few of those instruments here myself. And they are, even though they were production instruments back in the day, they were lauded as being actually handmade instruments, which they were. Did you like reverse engineer some of the ones that you do? Do you have some of those old ukes that you've taken apart to see what really makes them tick?
I've never taken one apart. My first like inspiration was this 1940s, I think, Martin soprano that we had, like a style 0, I think, in the shop for a while. And it had like the dip in the belly. And then hard to put anything through a sound hole of a soprano ukulele to measure. It's like, this is very, very thin. That was my big observation about built compared to modern instruments. So that Martin was a big inspiration for like how I felt ukes ought to work and how they are generally not built in the modern era.
The dip in the belly, because I've seen that on a lot of vintage instruments. Is that by design because the top's so thin, or is that something that happens over the years because of the thinness of the top?
It happens with time because of the thinness of the top, but it's certainly not over the years. It's like within a couple.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that. That's interesting. But the thing is, with ukes, you need to have that thin top to them, or they just don't speak. The first uke I ever had, I'm not going to say the brand, when I was a teenager, it was given to me, and it was this beautiful looking instrument that sounded probably worse than a cardboard box. It's as if they took a piece of wood this thick and just didn't graduate at all and just slapped it on top.
Yeah.
Resonance. And then I look at some of the instruments that I have now, including the Wunderkammer. It's so thin. It's just so thin, but it needs to be a speaker, right? I mean, that's our ultimate goal here. It's pretty crazy. Would you mind playing us another tune?
Sure. Of making up like very little like one verse arrangements of things.
Those are the best kind of songs, though. All you need is there's this. I think it's actually the last record that Al Jolson put out, like the 40s or so, and it's just. I think it's in Atlantic City, and it's just him and a piano player playing. But all he does is sing the verse and chorus of a song. There's like 30 songs on this record, and they're all 1 minute long. He does Avalon, and all he does is I found my love in Avalon. And like, that's the end of the tune. No solos, no nothing.
That's what you mean.
Yeah, a good song's a good song. It's just how it is. So I'm curious. I mean, you obviously have an affinity for things of a bygone era. I think that is fair to say, judging by your fashion and your music taste and your interests. So what got you there?
What got me there? Good question. So I like to pinpoint it roughly to the movie Ghost World. In 2001, I think, the movie Ghost World has Devil Got My Woman by Skip James on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I read that and I was like, oh, what's this? I played guitar, but I was like a nu metal kid. a, you know, I
It's a
had,
good crossover from the ukulele world and the metal scene. Let's not lie about that. It's very common, and I don't know why.
yeah. I find that I like not like novelty music, like vintagey and novelty music as well. It's a big thing. But yeah, so then I got into playing old blues guitar and kind of followed the path of getting into it. I think I had my best friend's dad was like a record collector. Like, oh, you should get the highest anthology of American folk music. So I did get that, and that set me on a whole interest in that whole era of this. Yeah, over time, like different bits of it would be the thing that, like I remember, I used to be interested in the third part. There's like all the songs, you know, it's got the bluesy songs on it. But like now, I'm really into the social music bit. That's all kind of weird recordings of square dances and sacred harp singing and stuff. But that kind of amazing cornucopia of music that was being recorded at that time, you know. And now I'm finding myself falling into this sort of Hawaiian music interest as well. Yeah, I spent a lot of my 20s playing like American old time string bandy type music. My band.
Yeah, I love how popular that it seems, at least from someone sitting in the States, how popular that old time string band music seems in England to this day. So we have a scene here still, but it's so small and niche that we preserve those songs. My group's essentially a string band. You know, we don't have horns or woodwinds or anything, and I love to see just that appreciation from the other side of the ocean for our music. You know, I feel like it's something we actually exported that's good into the rest of the world is early jazz. I mean late jazz as well. I mean, you could look at, so even in Europe, you know, I think more people would know who Chet Baker is over there than they would over here, just common man on the street, because the popularity continued so much longer there. So is there still as strong of a scene there as it seems from the perspective of an American?
I mean, I feel like it's probably, I'm trying to remember, I think the organization that kind of tries to group together all of the people interested in sort of Appalachian type old time string band music. I think there's 1,000-ish members in the UK, probably a core of maybe 200 particular nerds about it.
Yeah,
we all know each other.
Although that's no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
all the scene hang out.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that contingent in the trad and string band scenes of people who are just overly nerdy about the entire thing. There's the people who are like, we just want to play the music, and then the other people who are like, you're wearing the wrong button on your jacket.
Yeah.
And I think there's a nice crossover there, but sometimes I get in trouble with the latter group.
Yeah.
One day I'll find trousers to appease them.
Yeah, I like to know what those people would think about it without falling entirely into their world.
Yeah. What brought you to ukulele? You said you were a metalhead guitar player before. So what got a tiny instrument?
So, I mean, ukulele, actually, to be honest, ukulele was not a big instrument of mine prior to like building them. When I learned to build by paying a guy to show me how to build a guitar. And I'd been studying how to build a guitar while I was learning mainly how to repair guitars. And I learned all the skills building this like ladder brace parlor guitar. But then when I got my own workshop space, I wanted to practice all the skills kind of quickly, because obviously it's a lot of hours to build a guitar. Yeah. I'll build some ukuleles, because then I can practice all the stuff, the bending and the using the tools. I can turn stuff over quicker and kind of practice my skills more quickly. But the first few kind of came pretty good, and I ended up kind of falling into the ukulele world.
Were you basing those original ones off the old Martin designs?
Yeah. So, and to an extent, it was kind of guesswork, and some of it is like things that so the way I do a bridge patch, the reinforcing script behind the bridge internally, I don't think is actually how they're done. I've never seen it drawn like this on a plan for like how Martin used to do it. I do it more like on an old like a Stella guitar. So it goes across. You see this rosewood strip here on a Martin, on a real Martin. It would kind of stop, and then so from the edge. And mine goes all the way across more like on a, because I figured, oh, they must work like ladder brace guitars.
Yeah.
Those all.
Do you use ladder bracing in your ukes inside?
On my, well, sopranos have like essentially like no bracing beyond the
why they're so obnoxiously loud.
Really?
Since clubs have been closed, I've been out with a trumpet player busking a few nights a week, outdoors in the square, and I'm bringing that uke with me, and unamplified, you hear me like 2 blocks away, and compete with a great trumpet too. It's pretty great.
that challenge of like making something that's real small, real loud. It's like driving things. How can we make that?
But you think you could play us one last tune there, Liam? You just pacified my cat with that song.
All right.
He is fast asleep at my feet now, and he is usually trying to bite me. So that's a big step of progress for me. Well, Liam, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me on here and play some tunes and talk about your show. I greatly appreciate it. For everyone listening, I'm going to link to Liam's website. You can see more of those adorable little ukuleles that he makes that are stupid loud. So thank you again, Liam. Would you mind just playing us a little song to get us out of here?
Sure thing. Let's see. I think this is Blue Hawaii. Maybe. Let's find out.